Okay, so I'm going to be talking about an article in this video, which is by William Alston, called "Has Foundationalism Been Refuted?" Um, and that kind of is a large question, given in contemporary epistemology, um, and talking about contemporary epistemology, since Gettier, it seems that foundationalism has been refuted. It's kind of what he's kind of talking about, and even I think even since the die out of the logical positivist, uh, their goal, since they die out of that goal, and since Quine, since Quine's Two Dogmas of Empiricism and his other articles pretending to epistemology and truth, it can seem like foundationalism has itself been refuted. So, William Alston is going to talk about a article which is by Keith Lehrer, and I forget which article by Lehrer it is. So I'm sorry that I'm not more thorough as to which article that is by Lehrer. Keith Lehrer is a well-known coherence theorist of knowledge. He's written a good amount of work. He's done a good amount of work on coherentism and has argued that quite a bit, and he is quite famous for that. Alston is kind of in this article, and I'm sorry I'm not using the board right now. I just rather do it without the whiteboard right now. Keith Lehrer basically attacks foundationalism, and it's pretty easy to understand why foundationalism might be attacked and might be refuted, because and Alston is going to say in this whole thing that one of the main things that you would think is the main premise of foundationalism is basic beliefs that are justified freestanding by themselves and don't need any other belief to justify itself. It's a basic belief is one that stands up on its own, whether by observational data or whatever. The positivists in Carnap and like Mark Schlick were trying to make sense data or observational data the foundation of everything that of basically all of science, and they were basically unable to do that. They were basically unable to make sensatum statements translatable into or make statements about statements about things translatable, like directly translatable into statements about sense data. That's what they were trying to do, and they did not really succeed at it in the end. And there were lots of attempts, including by H.I. Ayer, to sort of save the positivist goal, but by 1950, by the 50s, and with Quine's article, the whole thing kind of died out. But the idea of having a basic belief which is indubitable, freestanding, justified of its own accord, is something that is not entirely defendable. It's not entirely. It's kind of difficult to sort of defend that, because to have a belief that is freestanding, justified of its own accord, it doesn't need anything. That's a very hard thing to defend, especially if you're trying to have a theory of knowledge which is based on every belief needing a reason for believing it. So Keith Lehrer attacks foundationalism, and Alston agrees that the main version of foundationalism that is mainly argued is basically no longer, it basically refuted. But that's when Alston kind of brings about a minimal foundationalism. And basically, something that he read, or that he's talking about from Will, is another writer, who I have not personally read, says that epistemic authority is incorrigible in claims slash cognitions. Will says the epistemic status of a claim relates to having relation to the first claim, and having first cognitions being infallible, incorrigible, indubitable, and Will objects to that. And that first cognition having a logical independence, and being freestanding by itself, that's a difficult thing. Will argues that cognition depends on social practices, and that no cognition is incorrigible. And if you read Neurath, if you read Quine, a lot of coherentist thinkers like Quine, you will come upon the idea that no cognition is indubitable, and that it is possible to be in a state of error when you are seeing something. So, given all this stuff, Alston says that this doesn't dispose of foundationalism altogether, but there is a minimal foundationalism, which is what he's going to argue. And justified true belief pertains to foundationalism. That's basically what that is. And there's also the question of inferential and non-inferential justification and knowledge, and non-inferential is a lot of what the question is. And usually when we're talking about foundationalism, so immediate knowledge, according to Alston, depends on immediate knowledge. Sorry. So he's going to have a couple of main statements, which is what's going to characterize this minimal foundationalism. The first is that every immediately justified belief stands at the base of a multiply branching tree structure, as the tip of each branch is an immediately justified belief. So, and in the article, he kind of did map this out a little bit, as to what was going on. So there are foundations in these little tree structures, but any immediately justified belief is not always indubitable, incorrigible, and infallible. So we have these tree structures where every immediately justified belief stands at the base of a multiple branching tree structure, as the tip of each branch is an immediately justified belief. So we do have these immediately justified beliefs standing at the base, or sitting at the base, and they branch out into where the tips are the immediately justified beliefs. And in this way, we do have a look at the way knowledge can be if we were to advocate this or argue this. So we do have a way of looking at, a sort of a model of what a system of beliefs would look like But we don't have to have that godly status of a basic belief that is indubitable, incorrigible, infallible. And the second one is that in every case of immediate knowledge, the immediately justified belief involved stands at the base of a multiple branching tree structure. At the tip of each branch is an immediately justified belief satisfying the requirements for knowledge. So every immediately justified belief, which is at the tip of each which is at the tips of this tree structure, is to satisfy the requirement for knowledge. And minimal foundationalism isn't really what Will is going for. Will is saying that the typical the typical foundationalist theories are not really something that pretty much is refuted, but Will is not really going for this either. But the main thing about Alston here is that we have these tree structures which can kind of show us a way that a system of beliefs can be, where there are foundations, but no belief, whether it be a cognitive belief or whatever, no belief is indubitable, incorrigible, infallible. Where in a coherence theory of knowledge, that's typically what it would be. It would be that no belief in the coherent system is infallible or incorrigible. Personally, I don't really agree with this. I personally agree with either the coherentism of Quine, and a lot of others that I've read. I forget who at the moment, but I know that of Quine's I definitely agree. Davidson, that's the other one I know that I agree with. I also agree with the infiniteism of Peter Klein. So those are the two theories which I'm kind of between at the moment as to what I agree with. Personally, I don't think that this minimal foundationalism should. Well, I don't think that it's worth calling it that. Personally, I think it's almost it's almost like a closet coherentism. It really isn't, but it almost is, because we have beliefs which is claiming are in some way foundational, but in my opinion, they really aren't. Minimal foundational only requires a basic belief to be established without dependence on other cognitions. So that's partly what makes it a foundationalist theory rather than a coherentist one. A minimal foundationalism only requires a basic belief to be established without dependence upon other cognitions. And I think in coherentism you can also have some beliefs that are in some way foundational but really aren't. But in my opinion, even with that corollary, it's still foundational beliefs which in most of the way really are not. Layer's foundationalism, the way that Layer characterizes foundationalism, is that basic statements are self-justified and are not justified by any non-basic belief. Basic belief must either be irrefutable or refutable only by the beliefs, and beliefs must be such that all the beliefs justified is refuted or done so by basic beliefs. Minimal foundation. So that's kind of basically the main idea of since ancient philosophy. Well, not all that stuff, but just the basic godly status of a basic belief. Minimal foundation says that incorrigibility, infallibility, and infallibility are not required, and it doesn't require justification of basic beliefs. So minimal foundationalism does solve the regress problem, and it does kind of give you a solution to what knowledge is. So it does, solve a lot of those things, but the only problem that I would have with it is that it does resemble some things of a coherence theory. So, if you think I should have included something, or should have said something here, comment below. Or if you think I'm wrong about this, if you think I'm wrong about it being sort of a closet theory, let me know in the comments below as well. Thank you.